I'm Nuzlocking every mainline Pokemon game in chronological order, again. After the task of taking down every game without a single repeat Pokemon, I asked, how can I up the ante? And the answer was obvious. Shiny Pokemon only. That's right, 40 games, no repeats, all shinies. Can I pull it off? Well, let's see if I can keep it going with the start of Generation 2, Pokemon Gold. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get notified for every time I upload. Like the video if you're excited for Season 2 of the franchise Nuzlocke, and comment down below telling me how absolutely insane I am for deciding to do this again. Rules are in the description, and if you want to see me continue this series, I'll be streaming this entire challenge right here on YouTube, but I need your help. Considering the fact that I'm basically unable to make any other videos besides these and like 2 other videos I've been sitting on but haven't had edited yet, I've set up a donathon right here on YouTube where you can add to my timer through super chats, memberships, and of course with my GamerSupps affiliate link. I mentioned it in my last video, but just to iterate in case you didn't see it, I've been on a keto diet since the beginning of 2022 and have lost around 100 pounds because of it. And GamerSupps is the beverage that helped me cut out sugary sodas and energy drinks from my diet. With GamerSupps, I can still have both that energy drink or just a flavored drink with the non-caffeinated varieties with less than 1 calorie per serving, and great flavors like Guacamole Gamer Fart 9000, Big Meat, and Titty Milk. They may be the best posters ever with their flavors, but they taste great. GGF is a strawberry lime, sort of like a Baja Blast, and Titty Milk is a creamy blue raspberry flavor that I've been in love with. Though I recently also tried their pineapple cocktail, and if you're into tropical flavors, that's the hot ticket for sure. But you can get some using my affiliate link in the description and using code ChaoticMeat at checkout to get 10% off, plus for every purchase, I'll be adding a minute to my donathon timer for every dollar you spend, which helps immensely. But with that, let's begin. So starting off, I'll have to soft reset for my first starter of choice, which I decided to go with Chikorita. Reason being, I want to use Geodude as my out for the first 2 gym leaders, so that Bayleaf and later Meganium can be great support to the team without having to deal with too many problems. It just really sucks in the early game. And kinda sucks the whole way through, but hey, it's a starter Pokemon, I may as well take it. Though I'm really looking forward to having dual screen access as well as status moves like Poison Powder and Synthesis for healing, and stalling of course with Poison Powder. Since we ended up doing this on stream, I ended up spending a good bit of my first stream looking for this. What's YCS? It is Yu-Gi-Oh! Already? That was 2 hours! Holy sh! A good 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I wasn't doing exact counts for the first, 2 hunts of this, as I couldn't get any automatic counter working, but I did manage to finagle a way to do a manual counter that didn't affect my speed of resets, all around a badge or 2 in, so don't worry about losing that info. Though Chikorita took approximately 1,100 resets to get. But this was a great start, especially considering my luck that I was getting in both blue and yellow, which if you haven't watched the Gen 1 video yet, I'd highly suggest doing so first. It'll be in the iCard of your top right-hand corner of the screen right now. And if you're on mobile, I don't think the iCard appears, and a lot of people seem to watch on mobile, so if you're looking for that, just go to the channel. It should be my 3rd to last upload as of recording this. With that finished up though, all I've got to do is head up to Mr. Pokemon, grab the odd egg, fight the rival, and take it back to Professor Elm before doing any other shiny hunting. But during that time, I wanted to get a level on Chikorita just for the little bit of advantage against my rival. Starting off with Tackle against his Leer, then taking a few tackles in a row, with a crit hitting on the second one, but thanks to the held berry, Chikorita heals up and survives with over half HP to win the fight. Thank goodness for held items being introduced in Gen 2, by the way, as those should help with the beginning battles thanks to held berries, which I can farm indefinitely by resetting the time over and over again in front of one of the berry trees, and of course in the future with the status recovering berries as well. Same goes for the Mystery Berry, which restores 5 power points of any move when used, so I don't really have to worry about conserving ethers and whatnot, or just finding them in general along with power point ups, unless I really want to use a 5 power point move more than 5 times in a battle. Following this though, I just took one of the required trainers out that stands between me and Violet City, getting there and changing the time to daytime so I could head into Sprout Tower and start encountering. See, I want to hold on to Rattata for future games, so I'm not going to use it. However, I need to trigger Species Clause and get a shiny Rattata before going hunting for Geodude on Route 46 during the night, as 50% of the encounters on the route are Rattata, 45 being Geodude and 5 being Jigglypuff. If you're unfamiliar, basically what Species Clause is in a Nuzlocke is where you run into a Pokemon you've already caught in your Nuzlocke, i.e. you capture a Rattata in the Sprout Tower, then go back to Route 46, you can run away from your first encounter if it's a Rattata and try again for a new Pokemon, either Geodude or Jigglypuff in that case. But because we're doing a shiny only run, I need to do this for a shiny Rattata so that if I accidentally get one on Route 46, I can re-encounter after capturing that shiny Rattata, because who wouldn't? It'll be good for a shiny living Dex in Pokemon Home in the future. Then continue until I either find a shiny Geodude, which I want, or a shiny Jigglypuff, which would be disastrous. But it's only a 5% chance of encounter. We should be good, right? Right? Well, after changing my time today, we were ready for Rattata. This hunt, which 100% of the encounters during the day are Rattata in Sprout Tower, and despite being exclusively for Species Claws, took forever. It took about 20 hours of real time, somewhere close to 15,000 encounters plus, to get this stupid piss-colored rat. But there was a celebration to be had when it was finally found. And I... We did it! Finally! Piss rat achieved! I told you I wasn't gonna run away from that, you bastards. Hilariously, this became a meme in my chat, so much so that some of my viewers took time out of their schedules to make fan art. This one's my favorite. Just my character running back and forth trying to find the damn shiny rat, all while the sage is just spinning all around for some reason, and Rattata's just hiding for an ungodly amount of time. Thank you, by the way, to the creator of this. I only ever got like one piece of fan art before, and this is really cool. But with all of those encounters, I finally had the rat in my possession, depositing it and changing the time to night to begin the hunt for Geodude. Now, the reason we decided to do this instead of just hoping we'd get it in Dark Cave is because I need Dark Cave in the future for another Species Clause, as I'm hoping to get it to Zubat, then force a Slowpoke encounter in the Slowpoke well before Bugsy, so that I can have a chance at Slowking as early as pre-batch 2, as Slowpoke has a 2% chance of holding a King's Rock in Gen 2. And since I'm allowing trade evolutions as soon as they're accessible, that should help me plow through a good portion of the game. Now, during this time, I had a big argument with someone in my chat on how I had a 90% chance of getting Geodude and a 10% chance of getting Jigglypuff because Rattata was a Species Clause encounter, and to that I say you are an absolute f***ing moron. Rattata's not out of the pool of encounters and still sits here at a 50% chance. Geodude is here at 45%, and Jigglypuff is here at 5%. Any Rattata reroll means I still have a chance at Geodude, so effectively it's a 95% chance of Geodude and a 5% chance of Jigglypuff, as all Rattatas lead to a reroll. I don't know why they decided to be stubborn about the math, but hey, I banned them for being stupid as I don't want to deal with it. But hey, I decided to waste time on it in this video, so there you go, I guess. Thankfully, Geodude was nowhere near as long of a hunt as Rattata was, seeing as it was the first shiny that popped up on Route 46 after about 5 hours of hunting. One of my... That was quick. I'm just really good at this game. I am, like, ridiculously good at this game, dude. A lot faster than Rattata, though it definitely balanced out the little time that Chikorita and Geodude took. However, that's not it. We have one more member of the team that I want to add to the squad before taking on Falkner, and that's Unknown. I know, what a useless Pokemon, but the fact is that Unknown isn't going to see play anywhere else. And I may as well grab it now and use it where Power Creep hasn't completely killed the ability of Unknown to be used. And not to mention, Johto is the game with the earliest accessibility of Unknown, so it only makes sense for me to grab it here. Weirdly enough, though, due to the Unknown letters being calculated based on IVs, as are shiny Pokemon, only Unknown I and V can be shiny. Funny coincidence, but considering we only have access to one of the puzzles at the moment, the only one I can get is Unknown I. This is where I finally figured out how to get to counter to work on my stream, by the way, and I only counted the I encounters since all of the other ones that I was getting were irrelevant. And during the same stream where I managed to grab Geodude, I also managed to grab Unknown I after only 433 I encounters, taking only around 4.5 hours and being the second fastest shiny found so far. That was... I'm just the best gamer alive. I'm just too good. I'm just way better than you. Like, I am just beyond the capacity for anybody's physical, understanding. Now, Unknown actually had a shiny frequency of 1 in 880 Unknown I, so finding it in less than half odds is wonderful, though that Hidden Power Grass is absolutely awful. I was really hoping for Hidden Power Dragon, as there's 2 different IV layouts that Unknown could have had that led to HP Dragon, which would have been great for Claire and Lance, though I guess I can't be bad with having something that can take out weak Pokemon and use as a potential sack later on, even if I am deathless so far. And in case you're wondering, the only Hidden Power types that shiny Pokemon can have in Gen 2 are Grass and Dragon, just because Hidden Power is also calculated based on IVs. Now after a quick stat experience grind and taking out Falkner's trainers, I'm finally ready after over 200 hours of in-game time to take on the Bird Brain. He's leading Pidgey, I'm going with Chikorita and trying to KO Pidgey before we handle Pidgeotto with Geodude and Unknown. Doing so with Tackle, though it doesn't end up doing much and he hits with a critical on his first tackle. Though once I crit with Razor Leaf next turn, I'm good to use 2 more to KO, keeping over half HP and retaining my berry as Pidgeotto comes out second. Using Gust to bring Chikorita down to 5 HP as I use Growl, he uses Gust and it triggers my berry, keeping Chikorita over half HP as I swap into Unknown on the Gust. Taking half from a critical as I stay in, take 5 damage, then use a few hidden powers in the face of Gust. Taking 2 more before being put back into crit range following the berry, but I decide to stay in to dish out a bit more. Surviving on 4 HP as Pidgeotto is down to 2/3, using Geodude's Tackle to start dishing out the rest of his HP. But unfortunately, Pidgeotto in Gen 2 has Mud Slap, as that is the TM that Falkner gives. I don't know why, but it is very, very frustrating, especially once the 3rd and 4th one hits, I can't land a single tackle. So I swap back into Chikorita to resist the Mud Slap, taking 1 damage, then forcing Gust on Geodude, which does 1 damage, triggering my berry and letting me stay in to try for Tackle again, though I miss after a single accuracy drop, missing the second as well. Frick, I guess back out to Chikorita in order to attempt to reset the Mud Slap accuracy drops, swapping back in on the Gust for 3 damage on a crit with Geodude, taking another Mud Slap as Tackle lands, then staying in to take another 3 damage, and finally KOing with 1 more Tackle to win the fight. That Pidgeotto can be a really big run ender, and especially because you're only at level 9, you barely have any room for stat experience, none that actually matters. But the fact that we came out deathless makes things much easier, as I can hold on to these 3 going into Bugsy, not to mention Geodude can finally get access to Rock Throw before Bugsy, so I'll finally have a super effective attack in the face of his bug types. In fact, I'm not even shiny hunting again until after Bugsy, heading on through routes 32, Union Cave, and Route 33 to land in Azalea Town so that I can take on Team Rocket before the gym. Now the gym is super easy, of course, just leading with Geodude against his lead Metapod, using a few defense curls before hitting a critical Rock Throw on Metapod to one-shot, then doing the same thing to Kakuna after a Poison Sting that thankfully doesn't poison, not that it matters though, as Scyther only hits a measly Fury Cutter on Geodude before going down to a quad-effective Rock Throw to give me the win and the Hive Badge. 2 out of 16, no deaths. Let's hopefully keep it going. After this is another rival fight, where I made sure to give Geodude the PRZ Cure Berry as a held item in preparation for Ghastly's Lick, as it's super effective against everything on my rival's team. And sure enough, it came up as Ghastly outspeeds Geodude on turn 1 with Lick, paralyzing but going down to the follow-up magnitude as the paralysis is healed by the berry, leading to Quilava, who uses Ember for 10 damage, not burning, and letting a magnitude 6 bring it down into the red. Taking 1 more non-burning Ember as Mudslap takes it out, leaving just Zubat to use Bite, not flinch Geodude, and go down to a single Rock Throw to win me the fight. Another deathless major battle and we're good to go. I really can't complain about that. At this point though, I want to go for Zubat so that I can get that Species Clause for Slowpoke in the well, so I just haul my bum back to Dark Cave, and oh my god. This took a friggin' eternity. Mind you, I'm only counting Zubat encounters, which is a 39% frequency, whereas Geodude is 60 and Dunsparce is 1, so of course I managed to grab myself a duplicate Geodude after 8 hours of searching, but that means I get to reroll. I capture it just for the Shiny Living Dex purposes and keep going. Now when I found Geodude, I was at 2,834 Zubat encounters. I did not find a single Zubat shiny at all, let alone any other shinies, and kept going until I hit 8,192 Zubat encounters. Because of this, I was kind of at my sanity breaking point and decided, screw it, I'm just gonna go ahead and try to fight Whitney and Morty first so I can get Surf, and use that to get the 100% encounter of Slowpoke in the well instead. Well, yes, this is technically more efficient in terms of making sure I don't find shinies I don't want, it's also much more risky. Slowking would be a fantastic wall against Whitney with its high base stats at this point and being able to rush it down with water and psychic attacks before it has the chance to KO me, especially with Bayleaf's Reflect up. It would also give me a super effective out to Morty in case Golem goes wrong, though I don't anticipate on that happening due to there being a Mint Berry available before him to recover from sleep, and Ghost moves hitting for physical damage in Gen 2, so I felt like I could do it with Bayleaf and Geodude for Whitney, then solo Morty with Golem as the level cap increases to 25 by that point, letting me evolve Geodude into Graveler and then immediately into Golem. Saving Graveler for the future, as I won't be using it once in battle before its trait evolution. So it's back over to Azalea Town, clearing through Ilex Forest, Route 34, and getting into Goldenrod City. Now before taking on the gym, I want to grab a few return TMs from the department store. I can do this every Sunday, but by resetting the clock over and over again and continually calling it Sunday, I can just keep getting these, and after displaying that for chat, I just gave myself infinite money because I can theoretically do it, but considering the shiny hunting already takes long enough, I wasn't going to make them sit through that. With that though, I get a bunch of vitamins and top out my Pokemon stat experience as much as possible without having to waste regular experience, getting them around a third of the way to full stat experience, grabbing the radio card before taking on Whitney, which... oh dear, hopefully this does not go bad. Now before taking her on, I made sure to edge up my Pokemon as far as I could go before going over the level cap, as the cap is only in effect until the start of the battle. And to show how I do it without actually having to manually walk all the way back to Route 29 for level 2 Pidgeys, I just pulled up a few calculators in PK Hex, did the math manually, and it saved a ton of time. I like to show my work with this stuff since people like seeing it just to make sure that the run is on the up and up, and streaming it helps, so I'm glad to be doing that. But with that, Whitney leads with her Clefairy, I lead with Unknown and just use it as my way of beating Clefairy without expending any of Geodude's or Bayleaf's HP beforehand. Taking it out with 4 hidden powers after dodging a double slap, seeing a Mimic copy hidden power, then a Metronome that rolls into a stab headbutt for less than a quarter damage as hidden power KOs, keeping Unknown pretty healthy in the face of a deadly Miltank. Now my strat here is to keep in Bayleaf, use Reflect, Poison Powder it, then swap into Geodude to take it down with Mud Slap to avoid the risk of Rollout getting too out of hand and taking too much of my HP. As Milk Drink is pretty much threatening already with the near infinite HP that Miltank can theoretically have. First up, I decided to test what Miltank would go for by first using Hidden Power with Unknown, and of course she immediately goes for Rollout. Okay, well, following that chip damage, I swap into Bayleaf to take the second hit, set a Reflect to make sure this doesn't get out of hand on the third hit, then go for Poison Powder next turn, as with Reflect up and my Berry triggered, I will survive a fourth hit of Rollout, barring a critical hit. Oh, we're not faster. I thought Reflect would block that. Ah. Yeah, that was the one we were trying to avoid. That was the, theoretically, only rollout that we had to avoid the critical hit on to not lose a single Pokemon. Everything else could have been a crit. It could have been completely fine. But no, the fourth one exactly has to get the critical hit, which, by the way, was less than a 4% chance of that one being the critical hit out of all 5 after one of my chatters decided to do some math. But down goes Bayleaf for the first death of the shiny franchise Nuzlocke. And honestly, now that the weight of keeping Deathless is off my shoulders, there will probably be many more deaths because I am just ruthless with them. It's fine though, as Geodude can come in to take the 5th hit for less than half damage with Reflect Up, then take it down after using a ton of Mud Slaps to put its accuracy down enough for me to spam Magnitude in the face of Milk Drink until it finally goes down, winning the fight but at the loss of Bayleaf. Honestly, I'm not sure if it would have mattered if I had Slowking for this fight, or not, just to prevent that strategy, because it probably would have likely remained the same. I'm happier to have lost Bayleaf instead of Slowking. However, this does leave Meganium up for grabs in the future, either for one of the other Gen 2 runs, or for Heart Gold when I'm out of Johto starters to use. Decisions. Now Morty, thankfully after getting to Ecruteak City, shouldn't go as badly. Though I did forget that I didn't have to take out the rival in the Burned Tower first before facing him, unlike how you have to do it in HTSS, and it was a little bit of a liability. He leads with Gengar, I go with Geodude and go for Dig immediately, seeing Curse and taking a quarter damage from it before KOing, taking no damage between turns as Magnemite comes out second, forcing me to swap into Unknown, dodging Supersonic, and figuring I would just try to take it out because... I'm stupid, but of course a Supersonic hit led to a Confusion Self-hit and a Sonic Boom, which forces me back into Geodude on another Sonic Boom. That's not good for me, but thankfully I pull through by outspeeding with Dig and KOing, leading to Zubat, who goes down to Rollout following a Defense Curl, doing double damage and making sure Quilava goes down to the second hit without burning with Ember, barely avoiding disaster in this fight. Well, then that could have gone better, but that could have gone also a lot worse. But with that, we now have the ability to get Geodude up to the level cap, evolving it into Graveler and into Golem immediately, then finally going for the Mint Berry on Route 38 before hopping into the fight with Morty. He leads with Ghastly, being outsped and going down to Mud Slap, leading to Gengar. We go for Dig, but we dodge the Hypnosis, though it doesn't matter since of course we were holding that Mint Berry in preparation, leading to the KO next turn as Haunter comes out third. We outspeed and dodge Nightshade, KOing with Dig once more, leaving just the second Gengar, who falls the same way as the first, winning the fight without a single point of damage. Now that's the win I needed after losing Bayleaf to Whitney. But thankfully, being able to use Surf outside of battle now, it's time to go get that and head back to the Slowpoke well for that 100% guaranteed Slowpoke. Now this hunt wasn't bad per se, it was just barely over 9,000 encounters, insert dead meme here, which apparently chat thought I had a good impression of. It's over 9,000! But by encounter 9,043, we finally got our shiny purple Slowpoke, giving us a third team member once again. Finally. Oh, thank the f***ing Lord. God Almighty, you have blessed us with the shiny Slowpoke. But that's not all, we're ready to hunt for Pineco as well. I theoretically could have done this earlier, but really, Pineco's not useful until it evolves into Fortress anyway, and with the level cap being 1 level away from Pineco's evolution level, why not? However, for this one, I decided to do it differently. I instead grabbed a female non-shiny Pineco from Azalea Town, which I decided to breed for. Bayleaf conveniently has a use as a dead corpse, and that's for being able to get our shiny Pineco a lot faster than we could otherwise by using headbutt trees. By first grabbing a female Pryce from the Ilex Forest, I can breed those two to get myself a female Pryce with the shiny gene, which, to put it shortly, is basically as long as a Pokemon has an IV, or DV as they're known in Gens 1 and 2, I'm just using the current name of the thing just so that it's easier to follow along. As long as a Pokemon has a defense and special IV of 10, that's considered the shiny gene, as the defense stat will always be passed down from the opposite gendered parent, in this case Bayleaf for a female Pryce, and the special will be passed down half the time. This took a while, but I eventually did get a female Pryce with the shiny gene. Then bred it with a male Pryce that I hatched to eventually spit out a shiny male Pryce. You want to know how many eggs that took? 87. Now why did this happen so fast? Well, when breeding with a Pokemon that has the shiny gene, the odds go down from 8,192 all the way down to 1 in 128, or 1 in 64 if the Pokemon has a gender ratio like the starters, 87.5% male, 12.5% female. Of course, this shiny Pryce will count as my Ilex Forest encounter as it's a descendant of my original encounter, as does my shiny Pineco for Azalea Town, which only took 70 eggs. I'm probably going to, probably do that. Oh, wow, that was f***ing fast. We almost did it. We almost did it. We were 1 over. We were 1 over 69. I was 1 away from the funny number. It would have been absolutely wonderful for a stream bit, but hey, I will take a quick add to the team after the last bit of craziness. I may add Pryce if I get desperate in the future, but for now, Pineco will be added as my Azalea Town encounter. One stat experience calc later though, and I'm good to go for a good portion of the game, at least through the next 3 gym leaders. First up though, I have to take out the shiny Gyarados, which unfortunately I can't use since I already used Magikarp and Gyarados in yellow version. Would have been really nice to have used the guaranteed one, but alas, we take out the Rocket Hideout in record time, as well as the Olivine Lighthouse before setting off to take on Chuck in Cianwood City. Slowking obviously cleans house here. Despite only having Confusion, he leads with Primeape and I just go for Confusion here, taking a Karate Chop for 8 damage before one-shotting and KOing as Poliwrath comes in, which we somehow outspeed and hit Confusion for half as Hypnosis lands. Okay, 60%, that's fair. Then Dynamic Punch lands, a 50% accurate move for actually pretty minimal damage despite the high power. And then it lands it again. Twice in a row, 50% after the 60% Hypnosis. This is definitely not the game trying to bone me as early as possible. Thankfully, we do wake up, and then Slowking hits itself while Dynamic Punch misses, though the 4th lands as my berry triggers. But with 1 more Confusion, I'm able to take out Poliwrath, winning the fight. He just had no way of dealing with Slowking aside from the massive RNG swing there by literally hitting a 60% accurate move, followed by 2 50% accurate ones, and a 3rd before I KO'd. But if he couldn't even win with that, then there was no chance for him. Still, goes pretty well with my luck being absolutely terrible, but the fact that it's happening in Pokemon games is starting to scare me a little bit, because usually that's where my luck is good. With the 5th badge in hand, though, the level cap only goes up by 1 for Pryce, as for some reason the 7th gym leader is the 6th in the level cap order, and seeing as I already took out his gym trainers before heading to Chuck, I'm able to swiftly take out the puzzle and take him on as well, though I did make sure to grab the TM for Fire Blast from the game corner beforehand just in case. Though I think Surf will be more than effective to take out Piloswine. This is just to give me nice coverage for the time being until we get to Later. Oh, you'll see. Pryce leads off with Seal, and I go with Unknown for the hidden power grass here, hitting for over half and taking Icy Wind, which doesn't lower Unknown's speed. Fun fact, in Gen 2, Icy Wind has a 99.6% chance of lowering speed. Basically, when it doesn't, it's a leftover 1 in 256 glitch akin to Gen 1 missing with 100% accurate moves, so that's quite lucky. I don't have to take a second one of those and KO with another hidden power, leading to Dugong. I stay in and use another hidden power for around a third as Aurora Beam hits for minimal damage, letting me continue laying in with a second hidden power, taking yet another Aurora Beam to be sunk below half HP. Triggering my berry and letting me KO with a critical hidden power to rub salt in the wound, leaving just Piloswine. I was really hoping hidden power would do over half here, but it doesn't, and 2 of them instead brings it to red HP upon seeing Mist, and a Mist Blizzard. Mist and Mist being 2 separate spellings because I love the English language, but it lets me hit a third on a Hyper Potion before going for a 4th one, taking a Blizzard and surviving on red HP, but getting frozen in the process and not letting me get my hilarious Unknown sweep finish. But upon swapping into Slowking and dodging another Blizzard, it's the end of the old man as Surf takes out Piloswine, netting me the Glacier Badge and the TM for Icy Wind. And of course, with him done, it's just a hop and a skip over to Jasmine's gym, who's basically obliterated by Golem. She leads with Magnemite, I lead with Golem, and we're outspeeding to hit Dig, KOing and leading to Steelix, who I just try to hit with Mud Slap, getting a crit for basically no damage, and hitting a second one following a missed Screech. Though of course next turn she still manages to connect with Steelix's 75% accurate Iron Tail, despite being -2 accuracy for nearly half damage, leading to a defense drop that I'm forced to swap out of. I go into Fortress here, trying to use Bide, but getting no damage off. Probably should have expected that considering the accuracy drops. So I instead opt to swap into using Solar Beam. In case you're wondering how I got that, it got passed down from Bayleaf to Paris to Pineco as an egg move. I don't know why it did that, but it was funny and it let me take down Steelix in 3 shots, following some weak Iron Tails and a lot of missing. From here, it's just an easy protect to see what it does, seeing Thunder Wave and swapping into Golem to absorb it for free, then taking it down just like I did with the first one, using Dig and coming up next turn for the KO and the win. 7 badges down, 1 more to go before the league, and of course, I gotta take out the Rocket Hideout first. Thankfully, it's nothing, though of course there is the rival fight that I may as well talk about. He leads off here with Golbat, I go with Slowking and immediately try blasting it with Ice Punch, taking a bite that doesn't flinch and nearly KOing in 1 shot. But I get the freeze, so I don't have to worry next turn, KOing without an additional risk of bite flinch as Magnemite enters second, dodging Fire Blast while I dodge Thunder Wave, but KOing next turn with the second Fire Blast as Sneasel enters third and falls to the same fate following 2 feint attacks because I missed a second Fire Blast. 3 down, 2 to go as Haunter comes out fourth, so I decide to swap over into Golem for the defense, instead seeing Curse and a Shadow Ball before KOing with Mud Slap. But since the turn ends immediately upon KO, I don't take any Curse damage and can safely stay in against Quilava, using Dig and KOing with it after a turn of Curse damage to finish the fight. Perfect, another deathless fight should be good to continue on after clearing the Rocket Hideout out and towards Blackthorn. However, disaster strikes. On Route 44, I run into a cool trainer with a Butterfree that I just go, oh, let me use Rollout. And then Blossom comes out. Uh-oh. Uh-oh! The likelihood of that miss. It had to miss. It had to hit the 10% miss right there. You f***ing bitch. Well then, I guess good thing we didn't actually get that shiny Zubat from Dark Cave. Considering that duplicate shiny Geodude came out of there as our first encounter, I can just use that as a Graveler, finishing out my usage of the line and giving me a replacement, albeit an inferior one. I figured I might have gotten away with this being used in a later game, but I guess the game's not having it today. 1 Ice Path later though, and I'm in Blackthorn, just about ready for Claire. Thankfully, I've had Ice Punch since getting Slowking, since it was a TM available in the Goldenrod department store, and it should be plenty enough to hold up against her, while Fortress should be able to wall off Kingdra if things get bad. This fight actually goes a lot easier than expected, mostly because Slowking ends up outspeeding all of the Dragonairs and one-shotting with Ice Punch. Gotta love stat experience bringing the base speed up like an exponential amount compared to most other Pokemon just because of how slow they normally are. This means 3/4 of her team are out in one go without Slowking taking any status or damage, leaving me to just attempt to take down Kingdra with my squad of 4. She leads off with Surf, which doesn't do much in the face of Slowking, so I go for Ice Punch. Doing a third each time as she goes for Dragon Breath, then a Hyper Beam to take Slowking down to half HP, but nothing I can't fight through as a third Ice Punch does her in, giving me the Rising Badge once I pick up the Dragon Fang from the Dragon's Den. A little anticlimactic for the last Johto gym leader, but hey, a deathless fight is nothing to scoff at, especially when our team is in a pretty weird state at the moment. However, that's about to become a bit different. Considering this is Season 2 of the franchise Nuzlocke, I wanted to spice things up. After grabbing the Master Ball from Professor Elm following Claire, I knew it was coming, and I knew I needed a powerhouse to compete with this broken state of a team that I have right now. I banned legendaries in the first season as they'd be too overpowered. However, I figured if I was gonna have to limit myself by only procuring as many shinies as I physically needed to clear the game, well, why not shiny hunt the legendaries to give me a little bit of an edge? It's only really possible from Gens 1 to 4 as they start shiny locking the likes of Reshiram and Zekrom in Gen 5, though the Swords of Justice are still available, and basically every single box art legendary beyond that. But here, I should have a nice time attempting to hunt for Ho-Oh on the top of Bell Tower. Now, by a nice time, I mean an absolutely horrendous time. This one was probably the longest hunt since Rattata, if not longer. I started very optimistically, thinking we were going to get it relatively fast. But, oh no, I was very, very wrong. I was so worn out by the time we reached about 15,000 encounters, thinking I was going to need an 11th 12-hour stream to finish off Gold version, until about time. I will disrespect you, Lugia. And with 15,855 encounters, we have the most majestic shiny I think Generation 2 has. I don't think I need to add anything else to my party. Just gotta adjust moves like giving Ho-Oh Shadow Ball, which is an absolutely insane move to have access to, considering Ho-Oh's whopping base 130 attack stat, and with Ghost being physical in Gens 2 and 3, that is a really good thing. At least hopefully I don't need to add anything. Dear lord, I do not want to have to hunt another Pokemon in this run. But with that, a surf to the east of New Bark and one Victory Road later, we're ready for one last rival fight and a league before getting to Kanto. I lead off Ho-Oh, he leads off Sneasel, and this is just a quick Sacred Fire to melt this Ice Hole following a quick attack that does exactly 6 damage, leading to Golbat. Ho is able to outspeed and go for Fly, dodging a wing attack but barely missing the one-shot with the stab attack. Thankfully, I did put on a Bitter Berry in this instance to make sure I could heal out of the Confuse Ray, dishing out one more to KO and lead to Magneton, who melts the Sacred Fire just as well. Fourth is Haunter, which for some reason I decided to go for Sacred Fire instead of Shadow Ball, since I haven't yet come to the decision whether or not I'm going to replace Safeguard with it or not, considering Safeguard is really good against the likes of status moves. Fifth out is Abra, and with paper-thin physical defense, it's a simple outspeed and landing the 95% accurate move, KOing and leaving just Typhlosion. Going up to dodge Flame Wheel as well as Kadabra's Future Sight, and connecting next turn does around 80%, but upon taking Flame Wheel, I'm clear to take it out with Fly, only having taken 14 damage over the course of the entire fight. Ho-Oh might be kinda broken in Gen 2. Then again, considering the fact that it's one of the first box legendaries and nearly on par with Mewtwo in terms of base stat total, this isn't surprising in the Gen 1 and 2 stat system with stat experience, which I was able to max out immediately thanks to Ho-Oh starting at level 40, the cap being 47, and only getting up to level 44 on level 2 Pidgeys to max that out. I think it takes somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1,850 level 2 Pidgeys to be able to max out stat experience on any Pokemon. So I just decided to do that in PK Hex because that was a lot faster and I've already spent a lot of time shiny hunting. After all, it's been more than a month since the last video, and I'm sure people think, oh boy, that really was an April Fool's joke. That was funny that he actually did red, blue, and yellow though. No, I'm doing the actual whole series. This just took a really long time. Anyway, now then, to prepare for the league, I just made sure I had the berries I could possibly need. The held items like the Pink Bow from the Radio Tower following taking out Team Rocket, the Charcoal from Azalea Town for the likes of Sacred Fire, the Never Melt Ice from the Ice Path for the likes of Ice Punch, stuff like that, as well as gold berries, which are infinitely obtainable from the bug catching contest by placing in third. I decided to ask my chat here if they would be fine with me having 99 of them instead of wasting their time, as I had just gotten done with the over 15,000 soft resets for the Ho-Oh hunt. They said yes, and we were off to the races. With my squad of 5, it's time to face off against the first of the Elite Four, Will. I think this one's pretty simple. Having now replaced Safeguard with Shadow Ball on Ho-Oh, I'm able to tear through Xatu, using the EXP share on Slowking to level up both Ho-Oh and Slowking at the same time, hitting level 48, which is the point where Slowking finally learns Psychic in preparation for Koga. Second out, though, is Slowbro, which I consider swapping from, but I go for Shadow Ball to take it down, though it barely survives, only using Amnesia. Turns out it doesn't have a single water move on its moveset, letting me pull through with a second one, KOing it and one-shotting Xatu number 2, Jinx, and Executor to finish up the fight without taking a single point of damage. Second up is Koga, so I swap around my team, putting Slowking as my lead against him in order to sweep his team, taking out Ariados with Psychic, Fortress with Fire Blast following a Protect, Muck with Psychic, Crobat with Psychic following a double team, and lastly Venomoth following a Supersonic that we heal from thanks to a held Bitterberry, KOing and finishing the fight once again without a lick of damage. A great start going into this league, and I have a feeling Bruno will go the same way, as he's usually a joke in these fights. I just gave Slowking another Bitterberry and walked right in, leading Slowking again as he leads Hitmontop, nailing it with the Psychic after outspeeding. And it sure is nice having that stat experience, or else Slowking would not be outspeeding anything except for... never mind, I'm not going to outspeed anything. It does the same to Hitmonchan, then I swap over to using Surf for Onix to take advantage of that quad effectiveness plus stab, leaving just Machamp and Hitmonlee to be blasted by one Psychic apiece, to win the fight without barely a single point of damage, as Hitmonlee does get to outspeed and hit high jump kick for a grand total of 19 damage. Perfect! Now for the truly fearsome side of the Pokemon League for my team. Karen's Dark types are going to be a lot to chew through, but I think I can handle it. She leads Umbreon, I've got Ho-Oh, and I'm just attempting to blast it with Fly, dodging Sand Attack and doing half damage as Confuse Ray connects, but it doesn't matter as Ho-Oh manages to dodge, hitting itself for 2 turns in a row as a second Fly connects, KOing and leading to Gengar. Of course, this could be an easy Shadow Ball KO, but I want to try getting out of confusion here. So I swap into Fortress, taking a Lick for 2 damage, then out into Graveler to see Curse. From here, I figure I don't want to take more damage than I need to, so instead of taking Curse damage and trying to KO it with Earthquake, I just swap out into Fortress again for Lick and 2 damage, then start firing off Solar Beam. It does a little bit of damage, but of course it's resisted. Fortress's special attack isn't really that high, so it's not enough. So I opt in order to swap into Unknown and see if Hidden Power can take it down in a few shots, thankfully doing so with 3 of them following 2 uses of Spite. Strange, but I will take it. Third out is Murkrow, so it's back down into Fortress to tank Feint Attack twice before retaliating with a one-shot critical return, dragging out Houndoom. You know what? Seeing Fortress one-shot anything is cool as hell, but so is swapping into Graveler and making sure to one-shot with Earthquake to leave just Vileplume. Obviously, this pulls a Petal Dance, so swapping into Ho-Oh to take the quad-resisted attack for 4 damage before burning the petals down with a Sacred Fire is enough to net me the win, leaving just the champion. God help me, I'm going to need a lot of help. Or Lance here. He leads off Gyarados, I go with Fortress and try burning through him with Return, taking a Surf for less than a quarter as 2 of them put him down, bringing in Charizard. As expected, now I can safely swap into Graveler to tank a Flamethrower and destroy it with Return, since I'm not locking myself in a rollout here. I saw what happened to Golem, this is Golem number 2, and thankfully we're able to tank enough Flamethrowers to destroy it with 2 returns, leading to the first Dragonite. I'm like 100% confident this is the Blizzard Dragonite, since why would he bring in the Thunder Dragonite against a ground type? So I swap into Slowking to take for very minimal damage, the Blizzard. So thank you for being right. Before firing off Ice Punch, though Dragonite does outspeed and hit Hyper Beam for a little over a third, with the follow-up one hitting Thunder that paralyzes and brings Slowking to very low yellow HP, but we tough it out and hit another Ice Punch to get the KO, leaving just the Ace level 50 Dragonite as well as Aerodactyl. I opt to swap here into Ho-Oh for the Hyper Beam, using Recover to take back that HP, then start firing off Shadow Balls in the face of Outrage and a Full Restore. So it just becomes a war of attrition. Outrage versus Shadow Ball, Full Restore versus Recover, finally allowing Ho-Oh to come out on top with full HP as Aerodactyl comes in last, using a bunch of Rock Slides to attempt to take out anything it can, though by swapping into Fortress here I can tank 3 of them, going for Solar Beam to hopefully do some damage and attempt to stem the bleeding here, but it just doesn't go well, getting flinched on the 3rd Rock Slide and using Protect to try blocking as many of these 10 power points from connecting as possible. It's all good though, since I still have that Unknown at full HP in the back, and Ho-Oh can likely come in upon Unknown's death to clean up the KO, but wow, Unknown ends up being quite a fighter here. First to take the Rock Slide for a third, then another third, recovering with a Gold Berry, and getting nailed with a Hyper Beam next turn down to just 1 HP. This eye is fighting for its life here, attempting to not go down, but I know it needs to be done. Despite thinking of swapping on the recharge turn to see if I can save it and KO with Ho-Oh before Rock Slide can potentially come through, there's no way I'm risking that play on Ho-Oh's life instead of Unknown, so I hit one more Hidden Power Grass before finally going down to Hyper Beam, giving me that free recharge turn to come in, nail a critical Shadow Ball, and win the fight with only a single death during the league. That almost went very poorly, but honestly, I'm expecting it at this point. I'm like pulling myself through the rest of this game as to not waste Pokemon for future Johto runs and trying to use as many bad Pokemon as possible, as we still have 4 more to go in Silver, Crystal, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. And I think I'm just not doing that good of a job with this weird team, but hey, I have Ho-Oh and Slowking. Those should be enough. Let's see if these carry me through Kanto. Now, I never really think this region poses much challenge, but hey, why not go over the gym leaders just for fun? Rapid fire style, we're starting with Lieutenant Surge leading Raichu as I go for Golem the Graveler, which I was bribed to name, by the way, just like Lugia the Ho-Oh, which you can do as well by heading over to the stream after this. Probably. There's been a lot of nicknames taken, but maybe you can grab something in Gen 3 or 4. It nullifies all electric attacks, and that's perfect to be able to sweep through with Earthquake. Even making it through both Electrode's attempts to double-team their way out of this game, letting me KO all 5 of his Pokemon with 5 Earthquakes to win. Second up, Erica leads Tangela as I go with my beautifully shiny Ho-Oh, ripping through the team by using Fly on Tangela, Sacred Fire on Victory Bell, Fly on Jump Bluff, missing, and taking a Giga Drain, but thankfully it doesn't matter as the second connects to KO, leaving just Blossom to be ripped through with Sacred Fire after being jump-scared by it KOing my Golem earlier. I really didn't want to have to use Graveler, but here we are, I guess. Third up is Janine, the weakest Kanto gym leader with Pokemon still in the mid to late 30s. Oh boy, it sure would be nice if they remade this game and fixed all the levels. Oh wait. Well, since they're all poison types, I'm able to rip through Crobat, Ariados, Venomoth, Weezing, and Weezing number 2 all with 1 Slowking Psychic apiece to end that fight quickly, though this does give Fortress access to Toxic. A fantastic move for such a good stall Pokemon over Bide. Fourth is Sabrina, leading Espeon as I go with Ho-Oh, just using Physical Shadow Ball to just wreck her day and one-shot Espeon with Shadow Ball, doing the same to the follow-up Mr. Mime, as well as Alakazam to finish the fight without a point of damage. Fifth up, after handling the Machine Part and Pokeflute side quest, is Misty, leading off with Golduck as I go with Fortress, using the power of Solar Beam to take down Golduck following a Surf for around a quarter damage. Second up is Quagsire, which is the reason I wanted to use Fortress. I think about swapping for a moment since I'm unsure if I can survive 2 Earthquakes, but once again, thanks to the power of stat experience, I outspeed only seeing Rain Dance set up as Solar Beam KOs, leading to Lapras. I opt to Toxic it just in case we need to stall out this rain, taking a Surf for around half of Fortress' remaining HP, then using Protect to let those turns of Poison rack up before swapping for Slowking, absorbing that Surf like a champ before the rain stops, and dishing out a Psychic that barely misses the KO, but thanks to a Blizzard Miss, we're able to take that out with the poison damage and go into her last Pokemon, Starmie, relatively unfazed. But that stops quickly once she hits Confuse Ray. It's an arduous battle of resisted Surfs and her being able to spam Recover since mine are doing a whole lot more damage, especially once she gets a critical hit. But once she goes for the fatal mistake of using Recover here, I can safely swap into Ho-Oh, outspeeding and blasting with Shadow Ball for its attempted stall tactics to KO, win the fight without a single death. Good, we're still at 4, still getting through Kanto. The only 2 fights I really should be worrying about is Blue and Red though, but Misty was probably number 2 and the most threatening gym leaders in Kanto. Water types are definitely my biggest weakness on this team, but I shouldn't have to take down too many more of them. Sixth up is Brock, leading Graveler as I go with Slowking, taking out Graveler with Surf, Omastar and Kabutops with 1 Psychic apiece, then Onix and Rhyhorn with 1 Surf each to win. I'm really surprised he doesn't just get Golem and Rhydon here. I mean, surely they wouldn't have been that challenging, especially with the Kanto level balancing being just utter dog water. But hey, I'm happy to take a winner's lap here. Seventh up is Blaine, and he's using those fire types, and thankfully not using any super potions, which are easily extinguished by using Slowking, taking out Mag Cargo in 1 shot, then nearly Magmar following a sunny day, but it does use Confuse Ray before I break through and use Surf to KO, leaving just Rapidash, who tries to use Fury Attack as the 15th gym leader, missing, and eats a Surf for nearly full damage as Slowking once again breaks through Confusion to nearly 1 shot. Finally taking damage from a Fury Attack before snapping out of Confusion and dishing out 1 final Surf to KO and win me the fight. Now then, 2 fights remain between me and the end of Gold, and that's Blue and Red. The first of which has that level cap of 58 and is probably the most difficult fight of Kanto in my opinion, even more difficult than Red considering his team is actually pretty damn good and Red fills one of those team slots with a damn Pikachu. So I should be fine? Blue leads off with Pidgeot, so I go with Slowking and take a Wing Attack for minimal damage as Ice Punch connects to nearly 1 shot, missing a range that I've just been very unlucky with here, and against Blaine of course, but a second volley of Wing Attack and Ice Punch leads to its demise, with Executor coming out second as the follow-up. I opt to stay in and test my mettle here, knowing that his only grass move here is Solar Beam, and since I outspeed, I'm able to just connect 2 Ice Punches for the KO before it manages to do massive damage, leading to Alakazam 3rd. This is just a hop and a skip over into Ho-Oh, seeing Reflect, but that Reflect doesn't do shit to raise Alakazam's paper-thin special defense in the face of base 130, 80 power, super effective Shadow Ball, KOing and leading to Rhydon, who gets destroyed by swapping into Slowking and surfing it into the kiddie pool. 5th out is Gyarados, so I swap in and just take a weak pot shot from Twister, going for Psychic for half damage before taking a Hyper Beam. However, Slowking manages that just fine and KOs with a second Psychic, leading to his last Pokemon, Arcanine. I'm pretty damn sure that I could just brute force this with Ho-Oh, as we have that handy-dandy Recover, letting me fight against his healing items and take extreme speed all day long, using a bunch of Shadow Balls to eventually KO it, winning me the fight with no deaths, and leaving my squad of 4 to face off against Red at the peak of Mount Silver. Well, after fumbling through the darkness, because my stubborn ass never got Flash from the Sprout Tower, despite being in there for hundreds of in-game hours looking for a shiny piss rat. Seriously, it's piss-colored. Why does it look this way? Anyway, Red's level cap is 75 to account for stat experience, and considering his ace is a Pikachu at level 81, so I start against it with Fortress to set up spikes, which I thought had 3 layers in this game, but turns out that only starts in Gen 3. So after setting that up and using Protect, recovering with some leftovers that I got from Celadon City, I swap out into Graveler to absorb an electric attack with the ground immunity, then blast back after taking Charm with Earthquake to still one-shot. Figured it would do well enough there regardless of the attack debuff, since Pikachu is so weak at this point, it's not even really a threat. 2nd out is Espeon, so this is a simple swap into Ho-Oh to tank a Psychic for minimal damage, only doing a 1/6 of Ho-Oh's HP before outspeeding next turn for a one-shot with Shadow Ball. 3rd out is Blastoise, taking some Spikes damage before I swap out into Fortress in the attempt to Toxic Stall it along with attempted Solar Beams, which starts off well as I go for Protect for Leftovers Recovery, taking Surf, which does over half of Fortress's HP all while I miss. Well, shoot, I guess backup strat time. I go out into Slowking to resist that Surf and start laying in with Stab Psychic, continuing to take these rain-boosted Surfs for minimal damage as Psychic does over half, so I guess I was worried for nothing as a second Psychic takes out the water cannon engineered to fire it out of its forehead until recently, for some reason. 4th out now is Snorlax, so I go back into Fortress since I know I can survive pretty much anything thrown at me thanks to the leftovers and Protect, and somehow during this time, I don't even get paralyzed by Body Slam despite getting hit with it like 10 times almost, just being able to swap back and forth with Spikes and Protect for maximum Toxic Stalling. Though it does lead to Snorlax using Rest. Yeah, I definitely didn't consider that one. Probably means Toxic Stall isn't gonna work here. I figured I'd try using Solar Beam so I could stay in and get back to full off of leftovers, which works since Snore is not doing nearly enough damage for Snorlax to be a threat, letting me continue to fight this stall war with Snorlax. Eventually, I do get it Toxic'd again, with around 2/3 of its HP left, charging up Solar Beam immediately so I could try to bypass Rest. But he goes for it despite only having just dropped barely below half HP. And by this point, I'm just freaking tired of it, and with him being at +6 special defense with Amnesia, it's time to bring in Graveler and go for Earthquake, doing over half while Snorlax stays asleep, doing a little damage with Snore, and finally taking it out with a second, leaving just 2 Pokemon remaining. 5th out is Venusaur, so it's back out into Ho-Oh for Sacred Fire, only taking a quad-resisted Giga Drain for 7 damage total before using Recover to top myself off. Seeing a Solar Beam charge, but it'll never see the light of day as Sacred Fire burns the plant alive, leaving just Charizard. I could swap here into Golem for rollout, but I think I'll just be fine. Charizard doesn't have enough in the tank to really do anything to Ho-Oh, so after a Shadow Ball and a Wing Attack volley, I charge up for Fly, delivering it for the final blow to KO, winning the fight and the run with only 3 deaths. Only 3 deaths. That's a lot of deaths for one game. It's not too bad, and while I did lose out on going deathless pretty early on in this series, I'm happy enough to have gotten through this with such a limited pool of Pokemon. Sure, Ho-Oh carried like mad, but Slowking and Golem, by extension Graveler, did a fantastic job covering the typings that Ho-Oh didn't, and basically got me through Johto aside from the League. So I can't be mad about anything here. Now, I'm not sure if I want to use Lugia in Silver or Soul Silver yet, to be honest, but you can find out by checking out the streams for the Silver playthrough right here on the channel. I've already gotten through a pretty decent amount of them. In fact, we are past Claire, and I'm now deciding, do I do that, or do I go for something else? But you'll have to tune in to find out. Thank you so much for watching. This project is basically being subsidized by you guys through my stream marathon, and I couldn't thank you enough for the support. All of your names are here at the end screen of scrolling through, or just like passing through. I don't know how my editor's doing it. Either way, your name should be showing up here, and hopefully I am giving him enough time to wave through them so that it doesn't scroll by too fast and you miss your name, because you deserve the credit. So thank you again. But with that, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you hopefully in the next Shiny Franchise Lock stream.